the price we pay in supporting Ukraine in its efforts to defeat Russian imperialism is little compared to what would follow if aggression pays off. And we have to set victory as a goal. As historian Timothy Snyder has said, you don't always win wars, but you never win them if you don't set victory as a goal.
We have to find and to prepare this plan and to put this plan on the table during months. We don't have too much time because we have a lot of wounded and dead people on the battlefield and through civilians. That's why we don't want to have this war during years. So that's why we want to prepare this joint plan, put it on the table to the second peace summit.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, June the 27th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the big news story for the day, which was the failed coup attempt in Bolivia. The general, who goes by the name of Zuniga, or the ex-general, who goes by the name of General Zuniga, tried to get a coup going in Bolivia, and that coup failed. It failed miserably, and it had no support from the people. Evo Morales, he spoke out against the coup. It had no support from the military, or not enough support from the military, because the military, when they were given a new commander, they immediately dropped Zuniga, went to their barracks. Zuniga was no longer a general, and that was it. The coup was squashed. This coup plotter was arrested. His team of bandits, they were also arrested, and that was it. That was it. Game over, man. Game over. And why a coup in Bolivia? Why now? Well, Bolivia has a ton of lithium, 21 million tons, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of lithium. That is a lot of lithium, as Kurt Cobain sang, lithium. Yeah, so a lot of lithium. Bolivia wants to enter BRICS. I believe that the president of Bolivia was at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, where he was one of the guests of honor. Yeah, he's making deals with Russia. From what I understand, they're thinking about a nuclear power plant in Bolivia. Russia and Bolivia are thinking about building some nuclear energy in Bolivia. And what else? And Bolivia cut off diplomatic relations with Israel, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we have a whole lot of reasons why someone, somewhere, perhaps some three-letter people, somewhere, somewhere, wanted to coup the Bolivian government. Big story, big dramatic story yesterday. The coups are not working anymore, are they? Since 2014 Maidan, which was a successful coup, there have been coup attempts in Venezuela with Juan Guaido. That one failed miserably. We had Belarus. There was a little bit of regime change going on in Belarus with Tikhanovskaya Svetlana, and that one didn't Didn't go over too well. Where else? Kazakhstan. We had a coup attempt in Kazakhstan. That was squashed. But now the Putin, according to David Cameron, as he was telling fake Poroshenko, real life Vovan and Lexus the other day, Putin squashed the coup in Kazakhstan. Russia and China, along with Kazakhstan, they squashed the coup attempt, but now the Putin wants to take over Kazakhstan. Make that make sense. Anyway, that was a failed coup. And what other coups have failed? Let me know in the comments down below. And I was doing a show with Alexander. We were discussing this on the Duran about the many failed coup attempts and how the coup is not working anymore. The coup playbook seems to not be working. And Alexander brought up an excellent point. Not only is the collective West coup playbook not working, but actually the coups that are working are in the opposite direction against the collective West. For example, Niger, because those coups have the support of the people and they have the support of the military. It's impossible to have a successful coup if you do not have support of military or forces with guns. Let me rephrase that. If you do not have support from people with a lot of guns, then a coup is very, very difficult. So that was the big news. The coup in Bolivia. The coup that failed in Bolivia. So an update on what is going on in Kenya, the protests in Kenya, which actually I reported yesterday that the protests had led to 5 people being killed. Five protesters were killed by government forces. They were firing live rounds at protesters at the parliament in Kenya. That the number of people killed actually is 23. 23 people were killed by live fire as they were protesting a financial bill which would have led to prices going up for the people of Kenya, going up a lot for the people of Kenya. And I learned yesterday in the comments from my video update, thank you very much to everyone that commented on this story, that the financial bill that was being proposed by Parliament and was going to be signed by the president, that this bill was the handiwork of the IMF. Who would have ever thought that? I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked that the IMF would come up with a financial bill that would lead to prices getting jacked up for everyday citizens. I never thought the IMF would do that. Being from Cyprus and Greece, we have a lot of experience with the plans of the IMF, the austerity plans that the IMF comes up with. We have a lot of experience in dealing with the IMF and suffering from the IMF. But the update is that President Ruto has backed down and he will not sign this financial bill. So that is good news, but remain vigilant, people of Kenya, because the IMF and the globalists, got to remember, they have no reverse gear. They will not back down, and they will try again to put together some sort of financial package that will lead to an increase in prices. They will not give up that easily. So remain vigilant, people of Kenya. And now let's talk about the NATO Summit that is going to take place in early July in Washington, D.C. And the New York Times is reporting that the collective West and the Biden White House, they are scrambling to figure out something to give Elensky that will make him somewhat happy, but that something is not going to be NATO membership. That's what they're trying to figure out. What's going to be the consolation prize for Elensky, because he is not going to get NATO membership at this NATO event, and they're trying to figure out, what can we give Elensky so that he doesn't go back to Kiev and look like he's being made a fool of, look like we're stringing him along. And what is it going to be? What is it going to be? What do you guys think they're going to offer Elensky? Security guarantees. Security guarantees, money, homes. I don't know. Podolyak. I read in New York Times that we not get into NATO, but they want to give me something to make me happy. Yes, Mr. President. I read that article as well from the New York Times. This is not so bad news. I go to Washington. I sit down with Mr. Biden. I tell him, you won't let me into NATO? Okay, fine. But you have to give me some homes. Many, many homes to make me happy. So Bloomberg is also reporting that at this NATO event, they want to put in place the NATO subscription model, the mandatory subscription model for their new revenue stream, which is called Project Ukraine, which will make it mandatory, all NATO members to allocate money to Project Ukraine for the long term. For the long term, something like $40 billion or $45 billion a year. And when this plan was first floated out there by Stoltenberg, all the NATO members were very positive, very excited. Yes, as long as it takes, we're in. We'll give however much money you need for as long as it takes to defeat the Putin. But now, as the event is getting closer and closer, Bloomberg is reporting that NATO member states are kind of backing off from this mandatory subscription model. And that's what it is. It's the NATO business plan, the revenue stream called Project Ukraine, where they want to secure $40 billion every year to Project Ukraine from NATO member states. Make it mandatory, because that is the best type of revenue stream, isn't it? A mandatory yearly payment. That's a good revenue stream for NATO. Project Ukraine. And this has nothing to do with the money that NATO member states have to give to NATO every year from their budget. This is a new revenue stream. Allocating 3% of your budget to NATO, that's one revenue stream. Now they have the new revenue stream called Project Ukraine, which is $40 billion a year, $45 billion a year. Countries are starting to back off from this idea. NATO allies struggle to agree on long-term funding for Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. Several NATO allies are balking at committing to a specific multi-year spending pledge on military aid for Ukraine that's aimed at giving Kiev more predictability over the long term. Yeah, $42.7 billion per year to be spent on lethal and non-lethal aid for Ukraine. Every year, $40 billion bucks. Gotta keep the grift going. Let's cross the street here. And talk about this Time magazine article with Yermak, Andrei Yermak, in Deep Thought. Deep Thoughts with Andrei Yermak. Inside Andrei Yermak's quest for peace in Ukraine. Yeah, they're positioning Yermak as the peace guy. when they need to remove Elensky after he's done all the nasty stuff that they're ordering Elensky to do, like mobilizing 18-year-olds, just like Putin said. Once he mobilizes 18-year-olds and does all the unpopular things, and if Project Ukraine continues to go really, really bad for the collective West, who knows? Maybe they're positioning Yermak as the peace guy to swoop in when Elensky is gone and to propose some sort of negotiation. His quest for peace in Ukraine. Oh boy. So Financial Times, they put out an article talking about how NATO needs more soldiers. They're having a real hard time recruiting soldiers for the war with Russia, to take on Russia in the future. Wanted new soldiers for Europe's shrinking armies. Troop numbers are in decline in the UK, Germany, France, and Italy. What might make more people serve, according to the Financial Times? And the Financial Times kind of answers its own question, or tries to answer its own question. It says in the article, way down in the article, it says European societies relate to their armed forces in a broad range of ways. In Poland, where the government hopes to increase troop numbers to more than 300,000 by 2035, military officials say the long history of Russian aggression the country has experienced is a powerful motivator for recruitment. That's why Duda and the government in Poland, Donald Tusk, that's why they go on and on about going to war with Russia and preparing to go to war with Russia and the evil Putin. And what did Duda say at the Swiss Peace Summit? Swiss Peace Summit. He said that Russia is the prison of nations and it has to get broken up. That's why they always say this stuff, because they believe that if they scare the people of Poland enough with this Russian aggression narrative, then more money to the military and more soldiers in the military. That's going to be Europe's business over the next 20, 30 years. That's what a deindustrialized Europe is going to be all about. It's going to be about tourism in some places, in some countries, and military, the military-industrial complex. That's going to be the main driver of growth for Europe, if not the only big driver of growth, because the rest of the EU is deindustrialized. Yeah, kaput. Thank you, Ursula. That's why you have won a second term, Ursula. And there's a chart here in the Financial Times about the growth of militaries. And in this chart, you can see that there are only two countries that from 2013 to 2023 have seen an increase in their military recruitment. The one country is Poland with 1.11%, and the other country is Estonia with 23.48% increase in Estonia's military. So let's do some Annalena Baerbock math. By the way, Turkey and Greece, in the Financial Times, they talk about how Turkey and Greece are the two countries that over the 10 years have consistently increased their military recruitment and their military budgets. But Estonia, a 23% increase over 10 years of their military. Annalena Baerbock math. Let's see. If I have one soldier and I have an increase of 23%, that means I have 1.23 soldiers? That's not right. Come on, I'm just joking around. Let's get real. The Estonian military is about 10 soldiers, so a 23% increase means 23% times 10, carry the 360, square root 720i, Annalena Baerbock math. That means I have from 10 soldiers, I go to 12.3 soldiers. I don't even know if that's right. I'm doing Annalena math. I don't know. Oh, man. I'm terrible at math. I'm not like Annalena. I'm not a math genius. Oh, man. So anyway, that's the article from the Financial Times. By the way, today, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they put out a statement saying that with Kinzhal missiles, they hit an airbase in Ukraine. I don't think they gave the location of the airbase, but the Russian Ministry of Defense said that the airbase was going to be one of the sites where F-16s were going to be used, and they destroyed this airbase. Who would have ever thought that the Russian Ministry of Defense would be able to locate an airbase in Ukraine where F-16s were going to be taking off from and destroy that airbase? I never thought that this would happen. I was always under the impression that any F-16 airbase in Ukraine would be left alone by the Russian military. Guess I was wrong. Guess I was wrong. Okay, what else? What else do we have on the agenda? Oh, Maloney. Maloney, she is plenty mad. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Very upset. Why is she upset, you ask me? Well, Giorgia Meloni is upset because of the EU top job appointments that I talked about yesterday. Ursula Costa from Portugal and Kaja Kallas from Estonia. They got the top jobs, and Italy and the parties that Giorgia Meloni is aligned with, they got no top jobs in the EU Parliament. None of their people were appointed to the top jobs in the EU, not the EU Parliament, in the EU. And Meloni is mad. She is very mad, according to Politico. Giorgia Meloni hits out at EU top jobs backroom deal. The Italian Prime Minister also called the EU an invasive bureaucratic giant. Wow. Wow. Prime Minister Meloni slammed backdoor deals on EU top jobs and said it was surreal. The opinions of European voters were not taken into account. There are those who argue that citizens are not wise enough to take certain decisions and that oligarchy is the only acceptable form of democracy, but I disagree, Meloni said as she addressed the Italian parliament Wednesday morning. Does Meloni actually think that the European Union is a democracy? Does she actually think that the EU globalists would take into consideration the results of the EU Parliament elections? Come on, Meloni. Who are you trying to fool? Who are you trying to fool, Giorgia Meloni? She's just upset that one of her allies, one of her people, didn't get into the top job of the EU, where all of that money is swishing and swooshing around, right? She doesn't have one of her people close to all of those EU funds. Oh, those EU funds, how they love those EU funds. That is what Meloni is upset about. All right, let's do some clown worlds, huh? Oh, before we do the clown world segment, did you guys check out Tucker Carlson speaking in Australia? I'm going to put a link down to his speech in Australia where he took questions from the Australian mainstream media. Fantastic performance, answers from Tucker Carlson. Absolutely fantastic. He was asked about the Putin interview and democracy and human rights and Assange. And boy, did Tucker Carlson destroy the Australian mainstream media. It's about a 10-15 minute video. I'll put the link in the description box down below. Definitely watch it because it's glorious. Very well done, Tucker Carlson. And let's do some clown worlds and we can wrap this video up. So the story about North Korean engineering soldiers to go to Ukraine in order to help Russia with engineering, that story is bogus, everybody. That story was started by a South Korean journalist. North Korea is not going to send soldiers to Ukraine in order to help Russia with engineering tasks. As Alexander said in a video, Russia about this topic, which will come out soon. Russian engineers, they built the Surovikin line. They don't need help in engineering. So this story was started by a South Korean journalist, and it's just not true. It's bogus. And it was picked up by Ukraine media, and everyone was talking about how, oh, Russia is done. This is it. It's over for Putin. He needs North Korean troops. Once again, projection, pure projection. When they say that Russia needs North Korean troops, what they're projecting is that they need NATO troops. So this was a fake story, started by South Korea, amplified by Ukraine media, picked up by Collective West media. Not true. Not true. And finally, let's do one more clown world. And it has to do with Jungle Joseph Borrell, courtesy of Jungle Joseph Borrell. Maybe this will be his final clown world. Who knows? Maybe this will be Borrell's final clown world. And this is making me very sad. We will miss you, Jungle Joseph. But he gives us a good final clown world. So Jungle Joseph, he was giving a statement about Russia banning 80 EU media outlets. I talked about this in my video yesterday. The European Union banned Russian media outlets. That ban came into effect on the 25th of June. And so what Russia did is they retaliated and they banned some 80 big European media outlets from being seen in Russia. And Borrell, he gave a statement about this, and this is what Borrell said, and I quote, "Russia's decision to block a number of European media outlets is severe censorship, while the EU's decision to block Russian media outlets is a fight against disinformation." The diplomatic service of the European Union, statement by the High Representative Borrell on Russia's decision to block a number of European media. This can't be true. This cannot be true. No way. No way is this a real statement. No way. Maybe it is. It's coming from Borrell. Probably. It probably is, but I don't know. I have my doubts about this quote. It's probably true. It's probably true. Jungle Joseph has said a lot more dumb things, a lot more dumber things in the past. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is indeed a real quote from Borrell. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop, Football 24. Pick up some football merch. Take care.